Good morning. Welcome to day 4. I'm losing track. We arrived Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's Saturday. So it's our 3rd full day, but our 4th day here, something like that. I'm a mess. It's still early, it's 8 o'clock. We don't leave for the conference until probably about 8:45. Mom and Tamzin have gone down for breakfast. I'm not hungry yet. I'm not feeling that great. So yeah, I thought I would take advantage of having the room to myself to just start the vlog, catch you guys up a little bit on anything that I might have forgotten to say in the last couple of days. Just have a little bit of a chat quickly. I won't take long, or I'll try not to. So yeah, yesterday Tamzin joined us, so that will have been in the previous vlog. The conference is going really well. I present today, but I've definitely been struggling. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I'm not. Like, I am just so happy to be here, but definitely am feeling, the effects of traveling when you have a chronic illness. And like, it's fine. It's fine. But I did want to say something in the vlogs before we got too far along into the trip, because I wouldn't want anyone to think that it's all been sunshine and rainbows and easy and I'm just kind of skipping merrily along. So excited I'm in London. I'm so excited I'm in London, but I'm definitely not skipping, and it's definitely been up and down. I hate saying that. Like, the other day, Thursday, when we went to the V&A and the Natural History Museum and then Covent Garden, like, overall, it was a great day. It was a great day. I'm trying to like frame it that way, but it was also a very rough day. And I'm struggling with a lot of different things physically. Yesterday was rough. I did not sleep at all the night before last. Thankfully, last night I did sleep. We turned our lights out at like 11:30. And I woke up at 7, and I probably got at least a full 7 hours, if not closer to like 7.5. I only got 3.5 hours the night before last, and then I didn't sleep well the night before that either. So sleep has been a struggle. The night before last, because I slept fine last night. The night before last, the problem was pain. Our first night here, I think it was just jet lag. Just kept waking up every couple hours, but managed to fall back asleep. But the night before last, so the night before the first day of the conference, I woke up at 3:30 just in so much pain. I think from all the walking around we did on the Thursday. So it was bad. It was the worst pain I've been in a while. Because my own stupid fault, I didn't stretch before going to sleep. I did stretch last night. Both nights I'd taken an Epsom salt bath. We stopped at Boots and picked up some Epsom salts because we have a bathtub here. So I've been doing that, and that's helped. But yeah, I need to be thinking more consciously about pain management while I'm here. I brought a lot of stuff to help with that. I get so excited. I don't think about it, and then I end up in pain. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Because this is not the London content you guys are here for. But I will vlog what I can at the conference and on the way there. And then I think it's supposed to be raining when the conference gets done. It was originally going to rain while we were in the conference and then be done by the time we got out. And now it looks like it's going to be raining later. We've got dinner reservations for after the conference in Covent Garden. If it's not raining that bad, I can vlog on the way there. If it is raining bad, then the camera will have to stay in my bag until we get to the restaurant. So I will vlog what I can, and I will talk to you guys later. for allowing me to speak with you all today. This paper looks at the rhetoric of the 19th century American press in response to the dress reform movement led by Elizabeth Smith Miller, Amelia Bloomer, and other women's rights activists. In the mid-19th century, as women around the United States began calling for equal rights for women, another debate was being had. Not about property rights or the right to vote, but about choice. The choice of what women could wear and who had a right to decide that choice. In 1851, in Seneca Falls, Elizabeth Smith Miller introduced the reform dress. The outfit consisted of a knee-length dress worn over loosely fitted trousers, which sometimes cinched in around the ankles. It quickly became a popular choice of apparel for women's rights activists and dress reformers. It would eventually become known as the Bloomer costume in the press and the main public, widely associated with women's rights and temperance advocate Amelia Bloomer. Bloomer would become one of the most successful speakers to wear the outfit, and her name would be the one that would be forever attached to the style. Prior to the 1850s, there was a growing debate and concern over women's fashion and its potential health risks, primarily components such as long, dragging skirts and tightly laced corsets. Doctors would comment on the health risks of germs being dragged into the house by the long skirts, or the damage that corsets could do to the female anatomy. Some risks would be greatly exaggerated, but there were some truth to the claims. As a result of these concerns, calls for dress reform had begun prior to the 1850s, with some men among those calling for it. When the Bloomer costume was introduced, many at the time were ready to welcome a change in styles. Analyzing the primary documents and periodicals of the time shows that while there had been some initial acceptance in some circles of the press, ultimately there were several tropes used by the press to attack and discipline the dress reformers, depicting the Bloomer wearers as immodest, impure, indecent, stealing authority, unpatriotic, unnatural, and isolated. This paper analyzes some of these primary documents to chart the three main shifts from mixed reviews to outright rejection, and the way the issue of dress reform was presented in the American press, as well as how these tropes were used to discipline the Bloomer wearers and prevent other women from adopting the costume. So, shift one, mixed reviews. Initially, the Bloomer costume was met with mixed reviews. Newspapers around the U.S. reported sightings of the Bloomer wearers in their cities and remarked on the pleasant modesty of the new look in contrast with the extravagance of the traditional Victorian woman's style. The Milwaukee Advertiser urged women to follow the examples of women wearing the costume and to, quote, cast off the street sweepers, adopt this neat, tidy, appropriate, becoming dress, revolutionize the fashions, and their gentlemen friends, old and young, will bear them out in it, and will admire them the more and love them the better, end quote. Other publications focused more specifically on the benefits to women's health that the new costume afforded them, even if it was at the expense of their looks. The Windham, Vermont Democrat reported that the change in style has resulted from medical information linking the present fashions to everything from impairment to premature death. It was, quote, better that women have the courage to look like frights and secure to themselves and posterity the health that secures cheerfulness, vigor, and courage, end quote. On June 12, 1851, the New York Daily Tribune printed the article, The Revolution in Dress. This article best sums up the mixed response of the press. The writer at length discusses the health risks of long skirts and sweeping trains. The writer frequently makes the reader think that they are attempting to reconcile themselves with the reform movement, speaking out against the filth that the traditional women's styles gather up. However, they ultimately show that they are not completely in favor of the Bloomer style, stating, quote, we are not at all prepared to acquiesce in the menaced changes of female costume. We have indeed no objection to see the existing fashion entirely disappear, provided some more decidedly graceful and womanly style supervene. Though willing to see the current Victorian fashion change to accommodate a healthier style for women, the proposed style of the Bloomer costume is far beyond what they are willing to accept. When they get to their full opinion as to the appearance of the style, they don't hold anything back. But is there any possible effect in costume half so dumpy as that produced by a pair of Turkish pantaloons? We have never seen a female thus attired without an emotion of aversion. It always conveys a sensation of bow legs and not remotely suggests reminiscence of Jack Tar in a holiday costume. We are sure to do much to unhinge our reverence for the best of mothers and stifle our affection, were we only married, for the most amiable wives should we ever see this heathenish caricature of masculinity associated with their sacred persons. End quote. Reading the writer's opinion of the sight of a woman, even their own mother and wife, in the bloomer costume would cause them to lose reverence and affection for them, would surely make any woman who had been thinking about adopting the style think twice. It's the last part of this quote that is of particular interest as we see them begin to attack both the woman's morality by linking it to heathenism and her femininity by calling the costume a caricature of masculinity. They go on to explain that clothing is not simply a convenience for man, but also symbolic, and the concepts of modesty and decency are tied to dress. It also seeks to make women responsible for men's morality. If women's moral compass begins to slip, what will that do to man's morality? In the era of the cult of true womanhood and the woman belle ideal, as discussed by Barbara Welter and Barbara Bird respectively, virtues such as purity, piety, submissiveness, and domesticity ruled female behavior. No true woman would have gone against these virtues, and bloomer wearers were positioned as the antithesis of true womanhood. By less than a month later, the attitude had quickly changed from the previous month, and the situation was getting more charged by the day. Public harassment of the women was increasing, and there were threats of discrimination and even violence towards women who had adopted the costume and were seen wearing it around town. Papers would make false claims and reports of attacks and imprisonment of bloomer wearers as a way of preventing other women from adopting the style. The bloomer costume was seen as a threat to authority and therefore as a threat to the nation, thus leading any woman wearing the costume to be labeled unpatriotic. Additionally, some members of the clergy attacked bloomer wearers as a threat to morality and modesty, speaking out against the style in their sermons. The New York Daily Tribune, continuing in its disapproval of the costume, printed the article Bloomerism on July 1st, 1851, and further attacked the bloomer wearers by and with implied threats of violence. The article is short, but is more or less a declaration of war against the bloomer wearers. After stating that, quote, our fair friends will bloomerize themselves and have it their own way, whether that way be long or short, end quote, the article proclaims, quote, unbeaten woman lords it o'er the world. We don't beat our women and are therefore slaves. We are forced to knock under because we have fastidious scruples about knocking them down. Unbeaten woman is a tyrant. The weaker they are, the more tyrannical. A little blonde creature with fair eyes and fragile figure, whom you can crush in your manly grasp, somehow or other you find yourself trembling before. She bends you to her purposes, to her caprices. If you resist, her pretty eyes flash scornful fire. If you quail not before her anger, she rushes into hysterics. What is helpless, and above all clubless, man to do? Be meek and acquiescent, end quote. The article sets up a rigid binary. Don't beat your wife, but be a slave to her whims and less of a man, or beat your wife or other women in your family and maintain your masculinity. While the article never outright says that men should beat their women, the consequences of the, quote, unbeaten woman are made very clear. This article seeks to instill fear in men and their wives and warn that if women's feminine wiles aren't checked, women could start rejecting male authority and take power over them. The article as a whole continues to confront the bloomer wearers as being in opposition to true women of society and who seek to have tyrannical authority over men, starting with the co-opting of men's pants from their own wardrobe. In the third shift, in which newspapers and magazines attacked bloomer wearers with ridicule and scorn, would continue throughout the rest of 1851, as well as throughout 1852 and the next few years. There were other claims that the bloomer costume went against nature or was unnatural. Misrepresentation of the style was prevalent in the media, with bloomer wearers frequently being depicted as dowdy, isolated, and mannish, as opposed to women in traditional Victorian styles, who were portrayed as feminine, beautiful, and frequently accompanied by a dashing gentleman. The implication being that if you wore the traditional style, you would have everything desired by a proper Victorian lady. But if you adopted the bloomer costume, you would be unattractive and alone. If women began wearing clothing even remotely similar to men's styles, it was seen as crossing that boundary between the separate spheres that dominated Victorian society. Dress reform was threatening to both class and gender as it allowed for more mobility and freedom. In September of 1852, Thomas Lane would write an essay that was published in the Knickerbocker, a New York City literary magazine. He claims that those who had written in favor of the bloomer costume previously had likely done so out of fear of wives or loved ones, but that, as a bachelor, he is superior to those easily persuaded men and shares his full opinion of the costume. Lane admits that he is not opposed to seeing progress made in women's style of dress, but that the changes that have been proposed are too rash and sudden, and that more time should be spent considering this and easing into it. He is attempting to take control of the movement from the reformers and place it firmly in the hands of men. Lane states, quote, "The skirts have gone up smoothly and lightning-like, till at last lovely woman, shorn of her glorious plumage, the silk, the satin, the chalet, thought of frill, furbelow, and flounce, shall stand confessed, perfection pantalooned, stiff as a lightning rod, and awkward as little Johnny Sprouts in his first go-to-meeting swallowtail." End quote. Here he seems to also be cautioning women, connecting their clothing to their beauty, as a glorious bird is made beautiful by its plumage. By adopting the bloomer costume, women would be stripping themselves of their beauty. He goes on to describe the possible future and outcome of the bloomer costume, if allowed to proceed unchecked, saying that the bloomer style will continue to grow and adapt. He predicts, quote, "When bloomers have lost the fresh bloom of novelty and woman's size of variety, men will then learn that the bloomer has but paused. The trousers will become a worry and a bungle, awkward, uncouth, and clumsy. They will become too stiff, they will be limbered, too tight at the bottom, they will be loosened, too Turkish, and in short, too little like breeches, till some day pantalette will become pantaloon, casimere will supersede cambric, and woman will be fairly ensconced in the bifurcate. Once there, where, O man, is thy power? Do you not now see that the bloomer is nothing but an insidious coat and pants in disguise?" End quote. Here we get to the heart of the issue. If women wear pants, how are they different from men? Where will that dividing line be between the sexes, and how can men continue to assert their power over women? If women aren't wearing dresses anymore, are they still women? And if women aren't women anymore, then what does that make men? These were the issues and questions weighing heavily on the hearts of men as they sought to keep control of the issue and keep women firmly in their place and out of men's clothing. Lane ultimately places full responsibility of reform and its consequences on the women and positions men as the wise and dutiful authority figures who told women of their folly as they chose to ignore it. Unfortunately, the women of the dress reform movement would not be allowed to have the last word. With every attempt the reformers made to praise the style, there would always be someone in the press to criticize and mock their folly. The bloomer costume eventually lost favor and was seen infrequently outside of reform circles. By examining the rhetoric of the response to the dress reformers in the press, we can see in a focused way the battle that women in the 19th century were fighting for equality and fair treatment. Ultimately, women's dress and the right to choose what women wore would continue to be tied up with the larger issues of women's rights and equality between the sexes, issues which many would say we're still battling more than 150 years later. Thank you for listening. I've earned this drink.
You have, me too.
I'm so ready.
In a way.
You sat through sat through the first session.
Yeah, and then I walked like 22,000 steps around London, so
Yeah, we've earned our ticket.